Hello, movie nerds, and welcome back to Cinematic Sarcastic, a podcast that talks all things movies and television. I'm Natalie, and I'm your host. Apologies just in advance before we jump into this episode for the hiatus kind of between last episode and this episode. If you cannot tell from my voice, I have been feeling a little bit under the weather. Hopefully it's not too distracting for anyone. I am feeling better, but my voice obviously still has like sickly sultriness to it. Hopefully that adds to this and doesn't just isn't too distracting for everyone who listens. But I did want to jump back in. I feel like I'm super behind. I have not yet gone to see the new Guardians of the Galaxy because I do not like forcing strangers to catch my germs. I'm just not that type of person. But I will get to seeing that as soon as I feel like it's okay not to be, a mass contagion. But I did actually, while I was not feeling well, get to sit down and watch a couple of television shows, and we are going to talk about one of those today. So what we're going to talk about in today's episode is the new television show Silo, which stars Rebecca Ferguson, Rashida Jones, Tim Robbins, a ton of what I would consider more A-list actors. Harriet Walter is in this one as well. A lot of really great people. When I saw the trailer, I feel like this is how I start most of my reviews. I saw the trailer. This is what I thought. The real thing is not that. But when I saw the trailer for this, I was immediately intrigued. I like sort of sci-fi, dystopian, that kind of stuff. It's like period dramas or anything that's historical, and then anything that's sort of like Mad Maxy, dystopian. I like kind of both. Really, I enjoy anything that isn't right now. I will love television shows that deal with anything other than what is modern day. Get me away from modern day. And knowing that Rebecca Ferguson was in Silo, I was immediately interested in it because she is also in the new remake of Dune. And I hardcore really have watched every single iteration of Dune, the Children of Dune. Every time that they come out with a remake of that is the only thing that does not irritate me when they remake it is Dune, because I feel like no matter what, I still enjoy it. The version with Sting and everything about Dune I will watch and enjoy. I love the books. I love the movies, TV shows, whatever. I will watch it. And so knowing that she was in it, I was like, there's no way, at least in my mind, there's no way that Rebecca Ferguson is going to take a crappy television show when she's doing a really great film sort of franchise at the same time, right? And then I started watching Silo, and instantly my brain sort of started to click, and I was like, this is really not what I was expecting. And it was reminding me a lot of something else. And it finally dawned on me after the end of the second episode what it was that it kept reminding me of. So a million years ago, I want to say, there was a movie. I'm not entirely sure if I'm right on both actors. I know for sure Scarlett Johansson was in it, and I want to say Ewan McGregor was the one that played opposite of her, but it was a movie called The Island, if anybody remembers that. And Silo very much reminds me of that. So in The Island, Scarlett Johansson, and I want to say Ewan McGregor, I could Google it, but I'm not gonna. They live in sort of this community. They're told there really is no viable outside world. And every once in a while, you could have the potential of winning the lottery, where you would get to go to the island and live this amazing life outside of this sort of bunker where they're all living. And the reality in the island was that they were all clones, And going to the island was really your outside person, like a rich person who needed a liver transplant or had used you to like have a baby, for instance. And then once you had that baby, you were decommissioned, i.e., they kind of just killed you off because you're a clone and they could just make another one. I don't know exactly where Silo is going, but Silo definitely gives me those vibes. It kind of in the first 2 episodes, and I don't know if any of this is spoilers. If you haven't watched it, I don't know that this will be a spoiler, but what they see on the inside of the silo is not what's going on in reality outside of the silo, if that makes sense, which is why it kind of reminds me of the island. It's definitely like, I don't know if it's like a social experiment that's going on or what has happened between like the outside world and the inside world, but it's very much like this controlled environment inside the silo where you absolutely have to follow all of the rules verbatim. You know, there are harsh consequences to not. You're not allowed to own any relics, and what relics are things from like before the silo. So like Pez dispensers, for instance, watches, hard drives, anything from like before times, you're not allowed to own. And so at the very beginning, kind of Rashida Jones ends up deciding that she wants to leave the silo. And that is kind of like their major taboo thing in this television show, is that if you ask to leave, they have to let you. But it's very twisted and mild spoilers, so tune off if you don't want any spoilers for Silo. I hardcore think that the suit that they put you in is pumping some sort of like poisonous air into your lungs so that when you are outside and you see that it's different outside than what they're telling you, you can't ever come back or make it anywhere safe because they've killed you. I think that's what's happening. And I could be totally wrong. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty convinced at this point that the higher ups like know what's going on, and that the sort of space suit that they're giving people that go outside to clean is what they call it. And you're cleaning off this tiny little camera lens that lets people inside the silo see what's going on outside. It's like, it's gotta be some sort of like poisonous mix of oxygen, or that the oxygen like slows down or turns off, or somehow I think that they are intentionally making sure that you cannot like tell anyone inside the silo what's really going on outside the silo. Like I think there's some scary danger thing happening there. And so Rebecca Ferguson kind of has a partner in the show that gets killed. And so her trying to prove that it's murder, I think, is how the show will progress and let you kind of find like the back door-ish to the silo. That's what I think is going to happen. I'm not sure. There's only 2 episodes that are out right now that anyone can watch. So it's not a whole lot of information that you have at this point. But I'm on the fence with this one. I enjoy it. I love like the concept of it. But I'm not sure I feel the production level of this one is great. It kind of reminds me of, oh gosh, what is that other space movie, TV series? I'm not going to be able to remember the name of it, but it sort of started off a little bit weak, I felt like. And then over the course of seasons, it got better because obviously they had more money to contribute to production. And that is sort of how I feel about Silo, is that I feel like the first season of it is going to be a little less stellar in production wise, but that if it continues forward with more seasons, I have a feeling that we will see that sort of change over time. So I am sort of curious that way to see how that goes. But it is interesting. It is interesting to sort of see. It definitely is giving me The Island vibes, if anyone has seen that movie. So it's not like a brand new idea that we haven't seen before, but I'm hoping the twist at least is something new that we maybe are not as familiar with. So those are my thoughts on The Silo. I would love to know what you guys thought if you are watching it. Subscribe if you want to join the Movie Nerd family. You can find me on Instagram at Cinematic Sarcastic Podcast, and I hope to see you in the next episode.